The Last Train to the Moon Garden, a moon drift sleep story. Hello, my friend. Welcome back. If this is your first time finding this place, then welcome for the very first time. And I am genuinely glad you found your way here. My name is your guide for tonight, and it is my quiet privilege to be here with you as the world outside draws down into dark and still, as the ordinary noise of the day begins to soften at its edges, as you allow yourself, perhaps for the first time in many hours, to simply stop. There is something I want to say to you before we begin, and it is this: you made it through the day. Whatever the day held, whatever it asked of you, whatever it gave you, and whatever it took, you carried yourself through it and you arrived here at the end of it, and that is more than enough. The day is done. It is already in the past, already filed away into that place where all finished days go, and it is not asking anything more of you tonight. Not one single thing more. Whatever was left undone will wait. Whatever felt unresolved will still be there to look at in the morning with rested eyes, and it will look different then. It always does. It always looks different after sleep. But that is tomorrow's business. Tonight's business is this: let your body settle now if it has not settled already. If you are lying down, feel how the surface beneath you holds you, without condition, without negotiation, without requiring anything of you in return for its support. It simply holds you completely, the way a solid thing holds all the weight placed on it, because that is what it is for. The weight of your body is welcome here, all of it. Let it go down into the mattress, into the cushion, into whatever you are resting upon tonight, and feel it received. Your shoulders, if they are raised even slightly, let them lower now. Not dramatically, not in a grand release, just gently, the way a door swings closed when there is no longer a hand on it. Let the weight of your arms fall to your sides. Let your hands unclench if they have been clenched, and open your fingers just slightly, as if you have just set something down that you no longer need to carry, and your hands are remembering what empty feels like. Your jaw. Notice your jaw for a moment. How long has it been tight? Since this morning, perhaps? Since the phone call? Since the meeting? Since before all of that? Notice it without judgment. Noticing is not the same as criticizing, and then see if you can find just a small amount of softness there. Not forcing it, not fighting it, just allowing it, the way you might allow a held breath to leave, the way you might allow your shoulders to drop an inch without deciding to make them drop. Take a breath in now, a slow one, and let it come all the way down into the lower part of your lungs, into your belly, further than you usually let it go. Let it fill you. Hold it for just 1 second, just one soft, simple second, and then let it go, all the way out, slowly, until there is nothing left to release and your body decides entirely on its own to breathe in again. Good. One more, and one more. You are here. You are safe. The night is where it should be. And I have a story for you. Tonight's story is called The Last Train to the MoonGarden. There is a station that does not appear on any map. You will not find it listed in any timetable, printed on any schedule, or marked on any of the laminated route guides tucked behind glass in the ticketing offices of better-known terminals. It has no digital departure board, no illuminated arrivals screen, no cheerful automated announcement reminding you to mind the gap or to keep your belongings with you at all times. It does not advertise itself anywhere. It does not send notifications or run promotions or send you reminders when you have not visited in a while. It does not need to. The people who need to find it tend, in their own time, in their own way, quietly, and without being able to fully explain it afterward, to find it. The station is called Quiet Field, or at least that is the name that has come to be used for it among those who have passed through its platform over the years. Whether it had any name at all before the first of those travelers arrived is a question that has never been satisfactorily answered, partly because no one quite knows who the first traveler was, and partly because the station has the quality of something that has simply always existed, the way certain ancient things exist without requiring documentation or a founding date, or any particular justification for their presence in the world. It simply is. It sits at the end of a spur line, a thin silver thread of railway track that branches away from the main line somewhere after the lights of the nearest city have faded to the faintest warm smear behind you, somewhere after the last suburb gives up its ambitions and the countryside truly begins in earnest. The spur line does not appear on most maps, though if you look very carefully at a certain kind of old map, the handwritten kind, the kind produced before digital surveying flattened everything into uniform precision, you might find on certain editions a thin pencil line extending from the main railway where no line was expected to go, labelled only with a single word that is difficult to make out with certainty, but appears, under patient magnification, to say something close to Quiet Field, or perhaps Moonfield, or perhaps a word in a language that was already old when the map was drawn, meaning something closer to the place the night keeps for itself. Tonight, you are on a train heading toward it. You do not fully remember how you came to be on this particular train. That is entirely as it should be. The manner of finding oneself aboard the last train to the MoonGarden has always been slightly unclear in retrospect, slightly dreamlike at the edges, as if the ticket was purchased by some quieter, wiser part of you that did not think it necessary to consult the rest of you before making the reservation. Perhaps you sat down somewhere familiar and closed your eyes and simply found yourself here when you opened them again. Perhaps the transition between your ordinary evening and this compartment was more gradual than that, a slow dissolve rather than a cut, the way the light changes in a room as evening advances without any single moment you could point to and call the moment it became night. It does not matter. You are here now. The compartment around you is real and the train is moving, and the night outside the window is doing what the night does when it has been left alone long enough to be entirely, unhurriedly itself. You are in a sleeper compartment, the old kind, the kind that is not made any longer, that belongs to an era of rail travel when the journey itself was considered part of the destination, when people dressed for the dining car and the observation lounge and arrived at their berths as though arriving at a good hotel. The walls are panelled in dark, polished wood, the grain of it visible in the warm lamplight, each plank a slightly different shade of brown and amber, the whole arrangement together making something deeply and somewhat unreasonably comforting, the way a very old library makes you comfortable before you have read anything in it, simply through the quality of its accumulated care. The cushions on the seat across from you are deep, the colour of slate blue or storm grey, worn to a softness that only comes from decades of use and tending. They do not look new. they look the way the very best things look after they have been used with love and attention for a very long time, which is to say, they look earned. A small brass lamp is fixed to the wall above the door, the kind with a white glass shade that turns the light inside it warm and diffuse and deeply unthreatening. The kind of light that does not demand anything of your eyes, but simply keeps you company. A narrow window beside your seat looks out on the night. There is a small, low table beneath the window, wood-topped with a brass rail around its edge to prevent things sliding off. And on the table, someone has placed a small glass of water, perfectly still, perfectly positioned. You did not ask for it. You did not pour it. It was simply there when you settled in, which is its own kind of kindness. The train is moving. That is the first thing you properly feel about it, once you have taken in the compartment. Not just the fact of the movement, but the particular quality of it. The way it feels to be inside this specific motion on this specific night. It is not fast. It is not urgent. It does not have the quality of something racing toward a deadline, the slightly anxious vibration of a train that is running late or that has somewhere absolutely critical to be by a certain hour. It has instead the quality of something that knows exactly where it is going and has decided quite deliberately to take its time about getting there. The decision is not negligence, it is a choice. It is the choice of something large and purposeful that has been making this journey long enough to understand that the journey is not separate from the arriving. You feel the motion of it in the soles of your feet, a low and even and perfectly steady vibration that travels up through the floor and into the bones of your ankles and the long bones of your legs, and settles into your whole body as a kind of background pulse, neither demanding nor absent. The rhythm of the wheels over the rail joins is the oldest sound in the age of trains, the sound that people have been falling asleep to for nearly 200 years, a sound that the sleeping brain has learned to classify as safe and regular and belonging to circumstances where nothing is required of you except stillness. It says, something else is in charge of where you are going. Something else is managing the speed and the direction and the distance. You can rest. You can fully, entirely rest. From somewhere further down the train, very faint and very far away, you can hear the distant suggestion of the dining car, the soft clink of glass, the murmur of voices too far away to resolve into words, but close enough to carry the shape of ease, the particular quality of sound that belongs to people who have nowhere else they need to be tonight, who have given themselves permission for this crossing. You lean a little toward the window. Outside, the landscape is doing something that deserves your full and unhurried attention. The world is dark, as it ought to be at this hour, but it is not the flat and absent dark of a city after midnight, all sodium orange and blank concrete and switched-off glass. This is a softer darkness, a layered darkness, the darkness of the countryside at full night, of places where the sky has enough room to show itself completely. There are fields out there, long and level and very faintly luminous, and above them a sky that has been cleared of cloud entirely and left entirely to its own devices, which means it is doing what a sky always does when given that freedom, filling itself with stars from one horizon to the other, more stars than the eye wants to count or can count, more stars than the mind finds comfortable to hold, an abundance of them, a surfeit, a sky so full of light from so many distances that it has depth to it, layer behind layer, of faint and brilliant points receding away into distances so large that any number you might use for them is only a symbol. The moon is up. It has been climbing its slow arc for some hours, and it is now high enough in the sky to matter, high enough to be casting actual, physical, measurable light across the fields below. And if you have not thought much about moonlight as a real and specific thing rather than a metaphor or a quality of romantic evenings in old films, this is a good moment to consider it properly. Moonlight is not an illusion. It is reflected sunlight. Light that began its journey at the surface of the sun, that crossed the 150 million kilometers of space between the sun and the moon in just over 8 minutes, that struck the surface of the moon, composed of ancient dark basaltic plains called Maria and brighter highland rock called anorthosite, and bounced, and then crossed the 239,000 miles from the moon to the earth in just over 1 second. What is falling on the fields outside your window is sunlight. It is old sunlight. It has already made one enormous journey and bounced off a world 250,000 miles away. But it is still sunlight, still the same photons, now arriving here silvered and softened and entirely at peace after their remarkable transit. What it produces at the Earth's surface is not bright. Scientists have measured it carefully. On a clear night with a full moon, the illuminance at ground level reaches perhaps 1/10 of a lux, sometimes 1/3 of a lux under optimal conditions, which is 400,000 times dimmer than direct noon sunlight. This means it is enough to see the shapes of things, enough to walk by, enough to navigate open ground and distinguish a tree line from a field and a stone wall from a hedgerow. It is exactly the right amount of light for what the night is for. Enough to see. Not enough to see everything, not enough to demand that you process every detail of the world. Just enough. Your eyes know how to work with this, even if you have never thought to ask them how. The human eye at night makes a shift, a biological and chemical shift, moving from the cone cells responsible for color and fine detail to the rod cells, built for low light and wide fields of view. The rod cells are extraordinary instruments, more sensitive to light than the cones by a factor of roughly 1,000, capable of detecting the presence of as few as a handful of photons. But they do not transmit color in the way the cones do. Under moonlight, the world loses its reds and its oranges first. Then the warm colors go. The world moves towards silver and grey, and the faintest suggestion of blue, a shift called the Purkinje effect, named for the Czech physiologist Johann Purkinje, who described it in 1825. It happens because the rod cells peak in their sensitivity at around 500 nanometers, the blue-green portion of the spectrum, and so in low light, blue and green appear relatively brighter, and red falls away entirely, and the world is rendered in a palette that is quieter than the daytime palette, more monochromatic, more suggestive, more interior. This is why white flowers in a moon garden appear to generate their own light. This is why silver-leaved plants seem lit from within. This is why the world under a full moon has always been described in the languages of silver and Mercury and ghost and dream. Your eyes are doing something very old and very quietly remarkable right now, restructuring your perception of the world to match the available light. And they have been doing this for as long as your species has existed, in circumstances far less comfortable than a warm sleeping compartment on a moving train, without your ever needing to ask or to thank them. Outside the window, a long field passes in the moonlight, silver grey and still. At the far edge of it, a line of trees stands without moving, the air between here and there being entirely calm. You watch the field pass, then another, then a low stone wall running parallel to the track for a while, the top stones bleached pale by moonlight, each one casting a small dark shadow behind it on the field side. The wall curves away from the track and disappears into a darker shadow, swallowed by a stand of trees whose shapes against the sky are particular and unhurried and real. Then open country again. Then the flat, dark mirror of a pond, the moon reproduced in it precisely, a perfect round reflection sitting in the water with exactly the same calm and the same certainty as the moon above, neither one more real than the other, both equally whole, both equally present. The train does not rush through any of this. It allows you to see it. You find that you are grateful. There is a knock at the compartment door. 2 light knocks, not loud, the kind of knock that asks permission rather than announces authority, the kind that has manners woven into its rhythm. "Come in," you say, or perhaps you only think it, because the door opens either way. The person who enters is the conductor. He is wearing a dark wool uniform, double-breasted, with silver buttons down the front and at the cuffs, the sort of formal working dress that would have been called a livery in an earlier era of rail travel and which still carries that quality of quiet seriousness, the suggestion of a person who regards their role not as a job, but as something closer to a calling. His cap is tucked under one arm. He is older, somewhere in that unmappable country past 60, where people who have lived purposefully tend to settle into themselves and become, not resigned, but comfortable with what they find there. His hair is white at the temples and a darker pewter grey everywhere else. His face has the particular quality of many years spent looking out on things at night, of watching the dark countryside pass from the windows of moving trains, of having stood on many platforms in the small hours and known, from the quality of the air, which direction the wind was coming from. "Good evening," he says, not the way announcements are made, not with the brisk efficiency of public transit, the way you say it to someone whose presence, specifically, you are glad of. He glances at the small brass punch in his hand, a tool worn smooth by long use, the handle fitted by decades of pressure to the exact shape of his particular grip. And then, at the ticket he is already holding. The ticket is a long, cream-coloured slip with a single line of print on it, in a font that looks nearly handwritten. The ink pressed into the paper in the way of old typewriters, each character slightly different from the last, each one the product of a physical impression rather than a digital rendering. He examines it with the attention of someone who takes things seriously without making a performance of their seriousness. Then he gives it a single, precise punch, the small steel jaws coming together with a satisfying click that travels up his hand and arm in the way of well-made tools, and hands it back to you with both hands. "Everything in order," he says with a note of quiet satisfaction, as if the orderliness of your ticket is something that pleases him genuinely, not because it confirms his efficiency, but because it means the journey is as it should be. He turns toward the door, pauses, not as an afterthought, A deliberate pause, one that was planned from the beginning. "First time?" he asks. You consider this. It is genuinely difficult to answer. The compartment, the quality of the motion, the darkness outside the window, and the particular texture of that darkness, and all of it carries a sensation of being simultaneously new and faintly, unchaseably familiar. The way a place can feel known before you have ever arrived there. The way a piece of music you have never heard before can feel like something you have been waiting a long time to hear. "I'm not sure," you say. He nods, slowly, approvingly. "Most people aren't," he says. That's usually a good sign. He looks at you for just one more moment with the easy, unhurried attention of someone who has learned to see things at a glance and does not need to stare. "We'll be arriving in about an hour," he says. "The garden is open, it's a fine night for it." He says the last part with the mild satisfaction of someone who has checked the sky and found it to be exactly what was hoped for. He pulls the door softly closed. You hear his footsteps moving away down the corridor, unhurried and even. The footsteps of a man who has walked this corridor many thousands of times and finds in the repetition not tedium, but something closer to devotion. Then the sound of the footsteps thins into the rhythm of the wheels, and there is only the train. You turn back to the window. The fields are still there, still silver, still passing in their long and patient procession. The dining car is 3 carriages forward. You find it not because you set out to find it exactly, but because you have decided to walk along the train for a while, and the train, being the kind of place it is, tends to lead you toward what you need without making a fuss about the leading. The corridor between the sleeping compartments is narrow and panelled in the same dark wood as your own room, lit at intervals by small brass wall fixtures, dimmed to a level that is less illumination and more presence. A warm acknowledgement of the dark, rather than a defense against it. The carpet underfoot is a deep and worn burgundy that has been walked by many feet across many journeys, and it softens your footsteps without removing them, so that you move down the corridor with the hushed quality of someone in a place where others are sleeping, respectful of the dark on either side of the passage. You pass compartment doors, both closed, both with the thin line of warm light visible at the bottom, the quiet signal of other passengers, settled and content. You do not stop. You pass on, following the corridor through 2 more carriages before reaching the coupling. The brief roar of it, the rush of night air between the carriages where the world outside is briefly, startlingly present, the clatter of the wheels louder here. Then the door of the next carriage and the warmth and quiet again, and 2 more carriages and another coupling, and then the door of the dining car itself. The dining car is not grand in any showy way. It is grand the way a good room always is, through the accumulation of warm light and correct proportion, and the quality of care that has been given to it over a long time. There are 6 tables, 3 down each side of the narrow central aisle, each set with a white cloth that has been starched and pressed at some earlier point, and has since relaxed into the easy confidence of something that has been used well many times, no longer stiff, no longer formal, simply present and clean. Each table has a small lamp, its shade slightly different from the next, as though they were collected from different places across different years, and a single flower in a slender glass. And in each glass, the flower is white, moonflower. Each one as large as an opened hand, trumpet-shaped, white the way fresh paper is white, already fully open even here inside the car, as if they do not require the sky above them to know when it is time to bloom. Only the darkness, only the hour. These are Ipomoea alba, moonflower vines native to tropical and subtropical regions of the Americas, known to the indigenous people of Mesoamerica long before European botanists catalogued them, used and observed and grown by human hands for thousands of years. Each bloom lives a single night. It opens at dusk with a speed that is, in the plant world, almost dramatic, the petals unfurling in a motion that can sometimes be observed with the naked eye, and it remains open through the hours of darkness, wide and fragrant and entirely given over to the night. And then, as the eastern sky begins to grey, it begins to close, softening at the edges, turning slightly translucent, and by the time the sun is fully up, it is gone. But tonight, it is here, and so are you. Several of the tables are occupied. At the first table on the left, a woman sits with a cup of something warm in both hands, her reading glasses pushed up on her head in the way that means they were moved there without any intention of them returning to use tonight. She is looking out of the window at the passing countryside with an expression that is not happiness exactly and not contentment exactly, but something that has elements of both and adds to them a third quality for which English does not have a single word, something close to the sensation of having been somewhere difficult and now being somewhere else, somewhere that has no difficulty in it. At the second table, a man and a younger woman, perhaps father and daughter, the similarity in the way they hold their cards, suggesting a long shared habit, are playing a game that neither of them is taking very seriously. The daughter places a card with the offhand confidence of someone who has already won in her head. The man makes a face of theatrical ruin, examines his remaining cards as if consulting them for an alternative reality, and then attempts a poker face so obvious that it falls apart almost immediately, and they both laugh quietly, the kind of laugh that has years of smaller laughs inside it. At the very back of the car, a young man sits alone with an open notebook. His pen is in his hand, but he is not writing at this moment. He is looking out the window at the dark countryside with the focused, inward expression of someone whose thought is too large for words and is waiting for words to find their way to it. While you watch him, he turns from the window and writes quickly, 5 or 6 lines, filling the bottom of a page. Then he looks back out of the window. His hand stays on the notebook. He is in conversation with something the night is saying. You take a table near the middle. The cup that arrives in front of you is warm and slightly floral. Not precisely tea, not precisely anything with a name you know, but entirely right in the way that things can be right without needing a name. You wrap both hands around it. The warmth moves up through your palms and into your wrists and up through your forearms to your shoulders, and you feel your shoulders lower slightly without deciding to lower them. The warmth simply finding the held places and loosening them, the way good warmth always does. Outside, the moonlit countryside continues its slow procession past the dining car windows. You sit with your cup and you watch it go, and no one asks you to speak or to decide anything or to explain yourself in any way. And this turns out to be the exact thing you needed, which you did not know until it was given to you. You stay for a while. Then, when you are ready, you make your way back to your compartment, back to the deep cushions and the lamp and the window with its freight of silver fields. The train has been moving for some time now, and the sense of the journey has settled into something easy and natural, the rhythm beneath you becoming background, the way all rhythms eventually do. The way the sound of rain on a roof moves from the foreground of your attention to somewhere further back without you deciding to let it go. It is simply there, accompanying you, steady and reliable, the sound of something that knows its own nature perfectly. Outside the window, you begin to notice a change at the edges of the fields. At first, you think it might be frost. There is a pale gleam along the field margins, something catching the moonlight differently, seeming almost to generate brightness rather than merely receive it. But it is not frost. The air is too warm for frost, a summer warmth that even in the depths of the night holds its ground, a night that smells of warm grass and distant water, and the particular openness of countryside unmediated by the breath of cities. What you are seeing alongside the track is something else entirely, something alive, something that chose this hour. White flowers. They begin at the margins where the managed land gives way to the wilder edges, where old fence posts stand at angles and climbing things wind up without being asked. Moonflower vines on those posts, their white trumpet blooms fully open, each one a generous cup, turned upward toward the sky, catching the moonlight and returning it softened, 6 inches across on the largest of them. White, the way interior things are white, white the way the inside of a cloud is white, not the white of surfaces, but the white of depth. The evolutionary logic of this whiteness is precise and ancient. White flowers show up under moonlight in a way that blue and red and yellow flowers do not. White flowers remain visible to the moth pollinators that do the work of the night garden when all other pollinators have retired. White flowers are not aesthetic. They are messages. They say, in the language of contrast against darkness, "Here, I am here. Come." More of them now, thicker, as the train continues its slow approach. Night-blooming jasmine alongside the moonflowers, its flowers small and tubular and greenish-white, unremarkable to look at, spectacular to smell. Even through the glass, you find yourself imagining it, or perhaps receiving the faintest trace of it through some impossible permeation of the carriage, the sweetness of it arriving as a feeling before it arrives as a specific identification. The Cestrum nocturnum does not release its fragrance continuously. Scientific study has shown that it emits in rhythmic pulses, the flowers synthesizing their volatile compounds and releasing them in waves timed to the peak activity of their moth pollinators, the plant essentially broadcasting a signal on a biological schedule. A single plant can fill an entire garden with its fragrance in still night air. Whole streets of houses near which it grows report the scent on summer nights. It travels 20, 30 feet from a single plant, riding the cool air that allows volatile compounds to drift further than the warm, turbulent air of the day. Tuberose rises taller alongside the jasmine, its spikes of white flowers opening in sequence from the base of each spike upward, each individual bloom waxy and precise, the flowers staying open through both day and night, but releasing their strongest fragrance only after dark, only when the temperature drops and the moths take to the air. Perfumers have known about tuberose for centuries. It is one of the most prized natural fragrance ingredients in the world. Used in some of the oldest and most celebrated perfumes, its complex scent profile described variously as creamy, floral, slightly spicy, and deeply, almost uncomfortably rich. It costs a great deal to extract. It requires large quantities of the hand-picked flowers and very specific conditions of temperature and solvent to capture what the molecule cannot survive being heated. All of this difficulty is, in a sense, the flower's own difficulty translated into human terms. The fragrance of tuberose is extraordinary because producing fragrance at this level of complexity is an enormous biological investment, an investment the plant makes only in the hours when it will return the most, in the dark hours when the moths that carry its pollen between plants are awake and looking. There is evening primrose, its yellow, four-petaled blooms among the only non-white things growing alongside the track, having opened as the temperature fell this evening, the cellular pressure in the bud shifting with the light until the petals swung open in a motion that an observer with patience and a camera could capture, but that in real time is invisible, one of the hundreds of things happening around you at every moment that you do not have the attention to witness and do not need to. The evening primrose does not need you to watch it open. It opens either way. It is open now. There is night-scented stock, Matiola longipetala, small and seemingly modest, a plant that in daylight would not detain the eye for long, but which in the hours of darkness releases a fragrance so much larger than its appearance, suggests that gardeners have always loved it, precisely for this quality of understatement converted to extravagance. There are 4 o'clock flowers, which open reliably at 4 in the afternoon and hold through the night. There is night gladiolus. There is night phlox. There is the whole extravagant, improbable abundance of the plants that have evolved to do their living in the hours when the world's attention has shifted elsewhere. Plants that are not waiting for the world's attention at all, but are conducting their essential business in the dark with perfect self-sufficiency, requiring nothing from the daytime world except its absence. And the moths are out there in all of it, passing from white bloom to white bloom in the darkness, carrying the invisible thread of pollen between flowers in the ancient and entirely non-optional transaction that keeps the whole system running. The flowers are white for the moths. The flowers are fragrant for the moths. The flowers bloom at night because the moths are awake at night. Every detail of the night garden is a conversation between species that have been finding each other in the dark for millions of years, speaking in biochemistry and contrast and the particular molecular structure of scent compounds that travel in cool night air. A conversation so perfectly calibrated by long time that it runs without any oversight at all, requiring only the dark and the right temperature and the right season and the patience of plants and the presence of moths. You watch these flowers passing alongside the track, and something in you that has been tight begins, just slightly, to release. The train begins to slow, so gradual that you feel it in the rhythm before you consciously notice it as deceleration, the beats of the wheels over the joints arriving just barely further apart, the hum of the rails dropping just fractionally in pitch, the rocking of the carriage softening as the speed decreases by increments so small as to be nearly imperceptible. The world outside is changing with the speed. The open fields are narrowing, the track beginning to curve through ground that is no longer flat, and the flowers alongside it have thickened from scattered to abundant, from a margin phenomenon to something that fills both sides of the track as far as the eye can follow in the moonlight. A dense and living thing that the train is moving through, rather than alongside. 2 light knocks at the compartment door. He has his cap on properly now, the conductor, and he carries the lantern. An actual lantern with an actual candle inside it, the glass sides casting its warm light in a circle around him, the flame inside it very still in a way that seems to resist explanation. "We're arriving shortly," he says. His voice is quieter than it was before, pitched for the end of a long evening, for the hours when the voice naturally falls to something meant only for the person in front of you. The garden is open all night. You may stay as long as you need. He sets the lantern on the narrow table beside the window. The candle illuminates the space between you and the glass, holding it in a warm amber circle. He gives a small, unhurried nod and closes the door, and you hear his footsteps moving away with their measured, evening quiet pace. You look at the lantern. The flame does not move. Quietfield Station emerges from the darkness the way certain things emerge when you have been still and patient long enough, not suddenly, but as though it has been there all along, and your eyes have finally adjusted to seeing it. The platform is long and stone and worn smooth across its width by generations of footsteps, the stone polished to the quality of something that has received much quiet attention over a very long time. It is lit not by the clinical brightness of modern railway stations, but by lanterns on low posts, each one warm and individual, spaced along the platform so that each circle of light, nearly but not quite, reaches the next, so that the platform is a procession of warm, slightly overlapping pools of amber with thin seams of softer dark between them. On both sides of the platform, the planting beds are deep and generous and overflowing with the same night-blooming things that have been growing alongside the track for the last part of the journey, but denser now, more deliberately arranged, tended with a care that is visible in the way things grow when someone who loves them has been paying attention for a long time. The whole platform is bordered in white, night-blooming flowers pressed close to the pale stone, their blooms catching the lantern light and the moonlight simultaneously, so that the edges of the platform appear to emanate light, as if the garden itself is the source. The station building is single-story with wide eaves and tall windows, and a roof with a faint upward curve at its corners in the manner of very old structures that have had centuries to settle into their own best shape. The windows glow with warm amber. Above the door, dark wood, old brass fittings, standing open. Someone has wound night-blooming jasmine so carefully and so thickly around the entire frame that the doorway is made of living white, the blooms pressed close, the fragrance arriving from across the platform before you have even stepped down from the train. The train sighs to a stop, truly sighs, a long and settled sound, the sound of something that has been carrying a load and has now delivered it to the right place, a sound of purpose fulfilled. You step down onto the platform. The stone is cool underfoot and the night air arrives all at once before you have prepared for it, and what it does is this. It fills you. Not aggressively, not dramatically, but completely. It arrives in your lungs, and it is cool and it is scented, and it is the specific air of this specific place, which is the air of a summer night in a garden of night-blooming things, at the precise hour when all of them are most completely themselves. The jasmine is at the front of it, sweet and tropical and generous. Behind it, the tuberose, heavier, richer, the kind of fragrance that requires a moment to receive properly. Behind both of them, the moonflower's breath, faint and clean, a scent that is more suggestion than statement. And beneath all of that, the earth itself, the damp stone of the platform, the moss in the gaps between the stones, the cool, wet soil of the planting beds, the particular smell of a place that has been caring for growing things for a long time. You stand on the platform and breathe, just breathe. The path from the platform into the garden is pale limestone, worn to smoothness, bordered on both sides by low drifts of silver-leaved lamb's ear, whose velvety leaves press gently against the path edge as if offering to show you the way. The path glows in the moonlight. You follow it, and the garden opens. This is the most essential thing about a moon garden. It cannot be seen all at once. It was not designed for the comprehensive overview or the quick assessment. It was designed for the moving through, the slow discovery, the finding of one section and then the next, each one complete and each one leading, without urgency, to the one beyond it. The Mughal emperors who built their moonlight gardens in 16th century India understood this. The Mehtab Bagh, built across the river from the Taj Mahal, its name meaning moonlight garden in Persian, was designed specifically for the experience of moving through it in darkness. The night-scented plants lining the walkways, the white blossoms catching what the moon gave, the long reflecting pools in the center reproducing the great marble structure of the Taj itself in trembling silver water. The moonlight garden at Kensington Palace, planted in memory of Princess Diana with white roses and white flowering shrubs and silver-leaved plants, was designed on the same principle. Understanding that a garden experienced in low light requires different things of its plants and different things of its visitor. The visitor must slow down. The visitor cannot skim. The visitor must be present in a way that daylight gardens do not always require. You slow down. The plants on either side of the path as you enter the first part of the garden are the ground level ones, the ones that anchor and edge and provide the foundation from which taller things rise. Long drifts of artemisia along both sides, sometimes called wormwood, a plant native to the arid steppes in the Mediterranean basin, whose ghostly white-grey stems and finely textured leaves have been described in gardening literature as looking like frost even in the middle of August. In the moonlight, it is incandescent, returning every photon available, glowing with the particular quality that pale, reflective leaves have at night when the eye's rod cells, so much more sensitive to the blue-green spectrum, receive them as nearly luminescent. The pale coloring of artemisia is an adaptation from its hot, dry, native habitat, where reflective leaves help conserve moisture during scorching midday heat. Here, in this garden, at this hour, it simply glows. Lower, between the artemisia, the silver mounds of dusty miller, its leaves cut in ornate shapes that catch the light from different angles, building up a sense of depth and texture in the planting that daylight would resolve into simplicity, but moonlight renders complex. And along the very edge of the path, the lamb's ear, its long oval leaves covered in dense silver-white hairs, so fine and so soft that touching one is less a decision than a reflex. You reach down without deciding to reach down and press your palm to the upper surface of a leaf. It presses back with the cool, slightly damp softness of something that is very much alive and very much at peace and very much in its proper place. The higher plants begin as the path continues, Hydrangeas with enormous domed and panicled heads of white, each cluster a composed gathering of dozens of individual small blooms, the whole greater than the sum, the whole a presence that in daylight is beautiful and in moonlight is something past beautiful, something that takes the available light and returns it magnified. White climbing roses on old iron structures, open and fragrant, their perfume arriving in waves with whatever air movement there is, classical and deep, the scent of something refined across many generations of careful cultivation into exactly what it is, and no more and no less. Night phlox in lower clusters, releasing a sweetness that is intimate rather than broadcast, meant for the visitor who comes close rather than the moth cruising at distance. And then, the pool. The pool at the center of the garden is long and rectangular and very shallow, perhaps 8 inches of still water over a pale stone floor, and around its edges the planting presses close, moonflowers and white iris, and the broad floating leaves of water lily turned silver in the moonlight. The surface of the pool is perfect. In the way that only very still water can be perfect, the kind of stillness that requires both the air and the water to have been patient for long enough to find it, to arrive at a balance so complete that a single moth's wingbeat at close range would disturb it, and the circles would spread and settle, and the stillness would return. But right now, at this moment, there are no moths at this range, and there is no wingbeat, and the surface is as unbroken as polished stone. In the surface of the pool, the moon, perfect, complete, faithful to the original above in every visible detail, the craters and the dark basaltic plains and the bright highland rock of the lunar surface all reproduced below with a precision that is not artifice but physics, the flat surface of water being one of the most reliable mirrors in the natural world, one that has been reproducing the moon and the stars and the sky faithfully for as long as there has been still water on this planet, which is to say, for nearly as long as the planet has existed. You find the bench. It is where it ought to be, along the near edge of the pool, stone, long and low, positioned to look out across the water. You sit. The stone accepts your weight with the equanimity of something that has supported many thousands of sittings and expects many thousands more, and finds in this constancy not monotony, but purpose. You place your hands in your lap. You look at the pool. The pool looks back with the moon in it. For a while there is nothing required of you, not understanding, not interpretation, not even appreciation in the effortful sense. You do not have to receive this correctly. You only have to be here, which you are. Somewhere across the garden, at the far edge of the pool, a woman is walking very slowly along the opposite path. She is wearing something light-colored, and she is moving the way people move when the walking is entirely the point, when no destination is being aimed at, and the motion itself is the thing being sought. She pauses beside a tall flower, one of the tuberose spikes, and leans toward it, pressing her face close to the cluster of blooms. Even from across the pool, you can see the deliberateness of this, the particular way of someone who has learned not to let the available fragrance pass by unreceived, who knows what it costs to be near something extraordinary and not stop for it. She moves on. Further along the garden, barely visible in the softer dark, where the lantern light does not reach, a man sits in a low garden chair with his face turned up. He is completely still. He might be looking at the moon. He might be looking at the stars, at the Milky Way if it is visible here, the broad smear of our galaxy's edge seen from the inside, 300 billion stars contributing their individual photons to what the eye receives as a faint and continuous cloud. He might be looking at nothing except the vast and patient dark of a sky fully opened, a sky that has been above him his entire life, and that he perhaps has not looked at properly in a very long time. He does not move. The garden does not require him to. A large pale moth crosses the pool's surface. Its wings are the color of old paper, and it passes perhaps an inch above the water, so close that its reflection below it is nearly touching it. The two of them, moth and moth reflection, separated by no more than the thin silver surface of the water. For just a moment as it passes, you can see both, the moth above, purposeful, heading for the white flowers on the far bank, and the moth below, moving in the opposite direction through the reflected sky, heading for the reflected flowers in the reflected garden that exists in the pool's surface. A complete and entire garden that is not this one, but is faithfully this one, existing in the dimension of still water, experienced only by the angle of looking. The moth reaches the far bank and disappears into the white blooms. Its reflection reaches the reflected bank and disappears into the reflected blooms. The pool's surface trembles once, the faintest, spreading rings from where the wingtip came nearest the water. And then the rings spread and fade, and the surface rebuilds itself in the moonlight, calm and complete and entirely itself. You watch this happen. You do not say anything about it. There is nothing to say that would improve it. The night-blooming cereus is flowering near the old stone wall to the west of the pool. You find it by the fragrance before you find it by sight. The fragrance of Selenicerius grandiflora is unlike anything else in this garden, and unlike anything else in the world. Not sweeter than the jasmine, not more complex than the tuberose, but specific in a way that those flowers are not quite. A fragrance that carries something of its origins with it, something of the desert and the tropical night, something of the biological urgency of a thing that has only one night to accomplish what other flowers accomplish across entire seasons. The Queen of the Night, that is one of its names. Others include night-blooming cereus, lunar flower, and, in its Latin designation, the word Selenicerius, from the Greek Selene, goddess of the moon. For most of the year, it is entirely unremarkable. A tangle of grey-green stems going nowhere in particular, leggy and without obvious purpose. The kind of plant that could easily be mistaken for a weed or for something that has died and not yet fallen. Gardeners have thrown it away without knowing what it was. It has been removed from botanical collections through misidentification. It endures this without comment. It has been enduring things for a very long time. Then, the convergence of heat and dark and season that triggers the bloom. The bud has been forming quietly for weeks, a pale green capsule growing slowly at the end of one of the stems, saying nothing, giving nothing away. And then, over the course of a single night, a night that cannot be precisely predicted in advance, that arrives as it arrives, the white petals begin to open. They move so slowly that you cannot watch them move directly, can only look away and look back and find the shape changed, the petals another inch further open, the bloom another degree more present. By midnight, it is fully open, 10 inches across on the largest of them, white and architectural and many-layered, like something that was designed rather than grown, like something that a mind organized and a hand placed into existence. The fragrance is released over hours, the full force of it arriving as the bloom reaches its maximum opening, and then holding, and then by dawn, already beginning to withdraw as the petals soften and fold. By dawn, it will be done. The single night will be over. The bloom will close and fall, and the plant will return to its grey-green tangle and its patient, unremarkable wait for the next year's single night, which will come when it comes, which cannot be hurried, which will be everything again when it arrives. In Chinese folklore, the serious blossom represents unfulfilled love, a beauty that arrived and was not held, a feeling that existed and was not spoken. In other traditions, it grants wishes. In the Tohono O'odham tradition of the American Southwest, the night-blooming cereus is a sacred thing, the center of a legend about faith and transformation, and Tohono Chul Park in Tucson opens its gates until midnight on the night of the mass bloom so that people can come and stand near the flowers and hear the legend and breathe the fragrance and be present to the one night. You stand near the open flower and breathe. You do not need to assign meaning to it that is not already yours. You only have to be close to it while it is open. The path continues beyond the pool and the cereus. It curves around an old wall, passes through a gate of weathered iron overhung with white climbing roses, and opens into a small clearing where a fig tree stands alone. The fig tree is old. You can tell by the settled quality of its presence, by the way it occupies the clearing not as something placed there, but as something that came to belong there over a very long time. The trunk is too thick and too gnarled to be anything but ancient. The bark, like the surface of something geological rather than botanical, folded and grey and interesting. The lower branches extend outward in long, unhurried horizontal arms, the way old trees extend, not reaching, but simply occupying, growing into the space available to them with the equanimity of things that are not in competition with anything. Beneath the fig tree, positioned as if it grew there, a low wooden chair with a faded cushion angled toward the moon. You sit in it. The branches of the fig tree make a canopy above you, large 5-lobed leaves that are silver-grey in the moonlight, trembling very faintly in a breeze too small to feel against your face. Through a gap in the leaves exactly positioned, the moon is visible. The gap is the right size and the chair is in the right place, and the view of the moon through the leaves is the right view. Whether the tree grew this way over decades for exactly this purpose is probably not the right question. The right question might be whether it matters. You close your eyes. With your eyes closed, the garden is its own different country. The visual field, released from its work, stops competing with the other senses, and everything that was beneath it or behind it becomes present in a way that sight had not permitted. The fragrance rises first. With nothing to see, the nose takes everything, and the garden's fragrance arrives layered in a way the eye does not allow you to appreciate fully. The jasmine at the front, sweet and tropical, neither heavy nor thin, but precisely, impossibly right. Behind it, the tuberose moving in its slower, deeper register, heavy and heady and rich in the way of things that have taken a long time to become what they are. Behind both, faint and almost not there, the moonflower, cool and clean and slightly reminiscent of gardenia, a scent that requires stillness to find. And beneath all of the flowers, the deepest layer, the earth. The cold, damp stone of the path, the moss in the joints of the wall nearby, the dark soil of the planting beds, the particular smell of a summer night in a place that has been growing things for a very long time, that has been composted and tended and loved in the quiet way that productive earth is loved, which is through use and attention and the returning of what was taken. The sounds arrive more clearly with your eyes closed. A moth nearby, the soft incoherence of its wings in the still air. The creak of the fig tree above you, a slow and ancient sound. Wood that has been making this motion for many decades. A sound that has been part of this small clearing for longer than any current visitor has been alive. The distant murmur of water, a fountain somewhere further in the garden, or a small stream along the far wall. Its voice, steady and without urgency. The sound of water that is doing its work contentedly and does not need to hurry about it. And underneath all of this, the vibration of the train on the platform, barely audible, barely felt, the reassuring presence of the thing that brought you here and will take you back when the time comes, patient, on the rails, going nowhere, needing nothing from you except the knowledge that it is there. You breathe in, you breathe out. The fig tree moves above you in a breeze you still cannot quite feel on your face, but can hear in the leaves, a soft and intermittent rustling that is one of the oldest sounds in the world, the sound of large leaves moving in night air, the sound that has been here since before any train, before any garden, before any of the human care that went into the planting of the flowers you have just walked through. Let the night hold you. Let the tree hold the sky. Let the garden hold the fragrance. Let the pool hold the moon, and let yourself be held by all of it, by the whole cool, breathing evening architecture of the thing, which has been built across many years by people who understood something about what rest requires, and who made a place for it and kept it. You are in the right place. You have always been in the right place when you allowed yourself to stop and find it. The bench by the pool again. Later, you have found your way back to it without planning to, the path having brought you, as paths in good gardens tend to bring you, back to where you needed to be. The pool is there, the bench is there, the moon is still in the water, the white flowers are still open along the pool's edge. The moon itself has moved. It always moves. If you look directly at it, you cannot perceive the motion. But look away and look back, and it has shifted, the shadow falling differently now on the pool's surface, the reflection positioned slightly differently in the water, everything the same, and everything just slightly changed, the way time works when it is working well, invisibly, continuously, without drama. You sit on the bench. The stone is exactly as cool and solid as it was before. Your hands rest in your lap. Your eyes rest on the pool. Your breathing has been slow for some time now. Slow in the way that breathing becomes when the body has been in a good place, long enough to believe it. The night blooming Sirius is still open somewhere behind you. Its fragrance is still arriving on the air, the one night bloom still giving everything it has to the darkness and the moths and the cool summer night, without knowing that it is beautiful, without needing anyone to witness it, blooming because it is time to bloom and not for any other reason. The moonflowers along the pool edge are still open, still white, still entirely themselves. Each one of them will have lived only a single night by the time the morning comes. What a commitment that is, to have one night, to be fully open for the entirety of it, to not hold anything back against a tomorrow that, for you, will not exist in this form. The light falling on these flowers left the sun about 8 minutes ago. It struck the moon approximately 1¼ seconds ago. It has been traveling for the entirety of that time to arrive here, to these petals, to this pool, to the surface of the water where it has made the moon's reflection. Something large and enormous and quiet, this journey of light, something that makes the distances between things not smaller, but somehow more bearable, knowing what travels them. The conductor's voice arrives softly. You are not sure from which direction. It is simply present, around you, the way the fragrance is present, the way the moonlight is present, coming from the garden itself. He says, "You are here. There is nowhere else tonight. There is no other place that was wanting you, and you are not failing it by being here. This is the place that wanted you, and you arrived, and that is all that was needed." The garden does not ask for anything from its visitors except their presence. It has been waiting for your presence. It has everything ready. The open flowers, the still pool, the stone bench, the moon in the water, the fragrance on the air, all of it waiting for someone who needed it. And tonight, that was you. Your breathing is slower now than when you arrived, perhaps much slower. The garden has been watching your breath from the moment you stepped off the train, watching it lengthen, watching the space between each breath grow a little wider, a little more unhurried. The body knows how to do this. It always knows. It only needs the right conditions, and you are in them now. You do not need to understand anything tonight. Understanding is daytime work. You do not need to solve anything tonight. Solving is daytime work. You do not need to watch the serious or remember the names of the flowers or make note of anything you would like to return to. The garden will keep all of it for you. It has always kept things for its visitors. The stone beneath you is old and solid and has held many people in exactly this position, with the pool in front of them and the moon in the pool and the flowers open along the pool's edge. Many people have sat here and been held by exactly this arrangement and have left lighter than they arrived. That is what the stone knows. That is what it is for. The moonflowers will be open until morning. They are keeping their single night on your behalf. The Sirius is still open, still giving its fragrance to the dark, still accomplishing in this one night what has been preparing for an entire year. You do not need to be that open, not tonight. Tonight you only need to be here, which you are, here and resting and belonging to the quiet. Breathe more slowly now, as slowly as you would like. There is no minimum speed for breathing in the MoonGarden. There is only the breath you need and the next one, and the long space between them that the body fills with its own quiet work. The train is on the platform. It is not going anywhere without you. It has never left anyone behind who was not ready to leave, and you will be ready in your own time, in the morning perhaps, or whenever rest finishes what it has started here. But that time is not now. Now is only the pool and the bench and the open flowers and the fragrance and the moonlight and the particular quality of a night that has been given entirely over to being itself. Let your eyes close if they want to. Let the garden be dark behind them. It is the same garden in the dark. It is still holding you. The flowers are still open in the dark behind your closed eyes. The pool is still there. The moon is still in it. Let your hands open in your lap, just slightly, as if releasing something that no longer needs to be held. Let your jaw soften. Let your shoulders fall by one more small degree. Let the rhythm of the train on the platform come in under everything else, the oldest sound, the sound that says you are in motion towards somewhere better, and the motion is carrying you, and you do not need to carry yourself tonight. You are in the MoonGarden. You arrived on the last train. You walked the path through the silver-leaved things and the open flowers. You sat by the pool and saw the moon in it. You stood near the Sirius in its one perfect night. You sat under the fig tree and closed your eyes and let the garden be the garden and let yourself be held. That is everything. That is more than enough. Sleep now, my friend. Sleep in the way of things that have given their whole night to being open, and now, as the sky to the east begins to carry the first thought of a different light, fold gently inward and rest. Sleep as the pool rests, still and faithful. Sleep as the garden rests, not fully, not with the blank unconsciousness of the inanimate, but in the particular alive way that sleeping things rest, breathing, being, existing without effort, restoring without trying. Sleep. The train will be there when you are ready. It is always there when the MoonGarden visitors are ready, patient on the platform in the cool of the night or the early morning grey, the lanterns on the platform still lit, the conductor there with his measured step and his silver buttons ready to punch the return portion of your ticket with the same care he gave the outward portion. And the fields on the return journey will be silver in the moonlight, or perhaps gold in the first morning light, and the rhythm will be there beneath you, steady and even, the wheels on the rails saying everything they have always said, which is that you are being carried and you can rest, and the distance between where you are and where you are going is being reduced at exactly the right pace, without hurry, without urgency, without any demand on you except that you remain. You will sleep on the return journey, most likely, or you will watch the fields go by with the particular, unburdened attention of someone who has left something behind in the garden, not something they needed, only something they were carrying out of habit, and who finds now that their hands feel lighter and their eyes are soft and the view from the window is simply beautiful, simply and completely beautiful, without needing to be anything else. The MoonGarden will be there when the next night comes, and the night after that. The flowers will open again. The Sirius will wait its full year and then give its single night again. The pool will hold the moon again. The bench will be there. The fig tree will frame its particular gap of sky. The lanterns will be lit on the platform. It will always be there. You only have to need it, and you will find the station, and the train will be waiting, and the conductor will have your ticket ready, and the garden will be exactly as it always is at the hour you most need it to be. Open, fragrant, still, silver, and entirely yours for as long as you need it. Sleep well, my friend. Sleep long. Sleep gently. Sleep in the MoonGarden, which is holding you, which has always been holding you, which will be holding you still when the morning comes and finds you rested. The Sirius is open. The moon is in the pool. The train is on the platform. Everything is exactly as it should be. Good night. If tonight's journey brought you some rest, I would be so grateful if you took just a moment before sleep finds you to like this video and subscribe to Moondrift Sleep. Each like and each subscription keeps this station at the end of the line open and keeps the trains running on time, and makes it possible to bring you more nights exactly like this one. More gardens, more lanterns, more silver fields, more stories told slowly in the hours meant for rest. Click the bell to be notified when new journeys arrive, and if you are already asleep before you reach these words, that is the very best thing, and I hope the garden holds you gently until morning. Good night, dear friend. I will see you at the station. The last train to the moon garden. Moon drift sleep. Like and subscribe.